Welcome viewers, my name is John, I teach English. This video is for 9th standard state board students and this is for unit 1 supplementary. Okay, and before we begin the topic, okay, we are learning English, and before we begin the topic, let me I'll ask you take a notebook and a pencil or a pen to note down something. Okay, for introduction or motivation, what we'll be doing is I'll ask you to list down three neighbors, name of three neighbors whom you don't like much, kind of dislike, or you're not able to get along with them. Okay, write down three neighbors name, and these neighbors which you don't like them much, you're not able to get along, and next you need to list out 3 to 5 good qualities of that neighbor. You need to write 3 to 5 good qualities of that neighbor. You may pause the video and start writing 3 neighbors name, and you need to write 3 to 5 good qualities about them. That is one part of introduction, and I hope you might have finished. So next, one more thing. I would like to introduce you to a proverb. It's a very good proverb, and I want you to read and try to understand and tell and explain what it is. If it's in a classroom, I would have done that, and you may pause the video and try to get the meaning of what this proverb actually want to teach us. And other teachers who are viewing this, you can do one thing, this kind of lines, proverbs, you can write down in the whiteboard or blackboard, chalkboard, jumbled, and you may ask the students to reframe the sentence properly, reframe it as meaningful sentence. It will be helpful for them. It will be a good practice, and the students will be interesting, and you can also ask them to you may appreciate some students who are coming out first with that. Okay, so I hope you might have read and try to figure out what it actually says. Okay, meanwhile I'll write the topic today's. Okay, it's supplementary reading, the envious neighbor. Okay, so that's what we are going to learn about, the envious neighbor. It's a Japanese folk tale. Okay, let's start with the proverb. One person gives freely yet gains even more, another withholds unduly but comes to poverty. Okay, what actually it means here is, there are people who gives freely, what all they have they distribute. They gives it freely. They don't mind about keeping them, stocking with them. They distribute it freely, and then they gains more. They are getting richer. As they give freely, they are not in lack. They are getting richer. And there are other kind of people. There are two kinds of people in the world. The people who gives to others and they get richer, and there are other who are very stingy, and they keep withholds unduly. That means they keep for them, they stock for them, what we say, unjustly, and then but they come to poverty. They are not giving to others, they are keeping them, but they are getting poor. And it also continues, the generous soul will be made rich. The people who are generous, they are actually rich. I don't know about materialistic money, but in heart or in qualities, in values, they are very rich. Such people should be honored, and we should respect them. And he who waters will also be watered himself. He who waters, he who distributes, helps others will also be helped. Okay, that's a little gyan for today, and that's what the theme of the lesson is. Somewhat suits with this. Okay, now get start to the topic, the envious neighbor. As I said, it's a Japanese folk tale. It's very interesting. And okay, now we'll go paragraph wise. I'll read, check the pronunciation. You also read along with me, and wherever you are getting doubt, you need to underline then and there, and you should ask teachers. Okay, now let's start with that. The Envious Neighbor, a Japanese folk tale. In the old days, there lived an honest man with his wife who had a pet dog which they used to feed with fish and tidbit from their own kitchen. One day, as the old folks went out to work in their garden, the dog went with them and began playing about. All of a sudden, the dog stopped short and began to bark, bow, wow, wow, wagging his tail violently. Okay, this is the introduction of this. The background setting and all, everything you will be understand by this. Okay, so this is about a dog. The story starts in, as is a folk tales, it goes like this. In the old days, usually in the children's storybook we read once upon a time, or there lived there, that kind of. Okay, there lived an honest man with his wife. So there is a couple. An honest man is living with his wife, and he also living with his pet dog, who had a pet dog. He had a pet dog. So it is husband, wife, old man, an old woman, and a pet dog. And this pet dog, they used to feed with fish and tidbit, small things or waste or something, leftover food and all from their own kitchen. They are not giving any special food for this dog. They are not preparing anything, as it is living with them, and what all they are having, leftover or anything, they are feeding the dog with that. And one day, now the story starts. As the old folks went out to work in their garden, they are working in their garden, the dog too went with them, and it started playing over there. And the dog was playing, the man and the woman, they are working in the garden, and suddenly the dog started barking and wagging his tail violently. Okay, now let me tell you about this also. Whenever you come across a dog, and just notice its tail. I'm telling with my own experience. If the dog wags his tail, that means you are safe. And it's a friendly approach by the dog. And if the dog doesn't wag his tail and it is very stiff, the tail is stiff, that means you are in trouble. Okay, so now here the dog is wagging his tail violently. That means it's very excited about. Okay, now why the dog barks? Why is wagging his tail violently? We'll continue with the next paragraph. The old people thought there must be something nice to eat under the ground. So they brought a spade and began digging. When lo and behold, the place was full of gold pieces and silver and all sorts of precious things which had been buried there. So they gathered the treasure, and after giving alms to the poor, bought themselves rice fields and cornfields and became wealthy people. Now, in the neighboring house there dwelt a covetous and stingy old couple, who, when they heard what had happened, came and borrowed the dog, and having taken him home, prepared a great feast for him, and said, "If you please, Mr. Dog, we should be much obliged to you if you would show us a place with plenty of money in it." Okay, now what happened here? The old people, they thought there must be something nice to eat. The dog sniffed something and it is barking and is wagging his tail violently. That means they thought there might be something nice to eat. That's why the dog is barking and wagging his tail. So they brought a spade. Spade is a tool we used to dig, I hope you know, and began digging. And behold, look, the place was full of gold pieces and silver and all sorts of precious things. They got a treasure here which was buried there. And so they gathered the treasure, they took it out, and what they did? Oh, such a nice couple. They distributed to the poor. They giving alms. They distributed to all the needy people. They took care about the needy people. They were, and then whichever money was left out, they bought themselves rice fields and corn fields, and they too became wealthy people. They don't want to be very rich people. First they took care of other poor people, and with the leftover money they are satisfied with that. Very good thing. And then we read about the neighbor. Neighbors are, if we need or not, we have to live along with them. That's neighbors. Okay, now there's another character for this story, the neighbor. And they are very covetous. Covetous means what all they see and they like, they want to possess them, they want to have them. They want, they always keep an eye on other things, materials, and they are not satisfied about what they have. They always look on to others' plate, look on to other things, what they have and all, and they are, what we say, they want to have it. And that is covetous. We should always be satisfied with what we have, what God had provided us or what is given to us, and we should not look into others. We should not have a desire about having others things. And they are stingy too. Here it is. We saw the first couple, they are very generous, they give to the poor, and here they are stingy. Stingy means they are not even ready to spend the money, even for others. They are so selfish, they never spend or they never give anything to others. That is stingy. And they are, these neighbor, they are also old couple, but they are not like this couple. Okay. And they heard what happened. Always, we can't keep anything, what we say, secret with the neighbors. Somehow they will come to know. So these people, they heard what happened, and what they did, they came and borrowed the dog. And once they borrowed the dog, they are being very generous to the dog now. They are treating it with respect, and they say, if you please, Mr. Dog, we should be much obliged. Will be, very thankful to you. That please show us a place with plenty of money in it. And they thought, this dog is having some supernatural power, to identify where the treasure is, and they can become rich with the help of the dog. So they borrowed, and they want to be rich. They want to be rich. So that's the purpose. They borrowed the dog. Okay, now continuing with the lesson. The dog, however, made up to that time, had received nothing but cuffs and kicks from his host, would not eat any of the dainties which they set before him. So the old people began to get cross, and putting a rope around the dog's neck, led him out into the garden, but it was all in vain. He let them lead him where they might, not a sound would the dog utter. He had no bow for them. At last, however, the dog stopped at a certain spot and began to sniff. So thinking that this must surely be the lucky place, they dug and found nothing but a quantity of dirt and nasty offal, over which they had to hold their noses. Furious at being disappointed, the wicked old couple seized the dog and killed him. Oh God! The poor dog. What happened to the poor dog? See, first, they prepared a great feast for him. Let me tell you, this dog till date, what it had, what it ate, nothing but all the leftover tidbits and fish from the kitchen. But now, they are, providing dainties. That means, delicacies, rich food, tasty food prepared, so like a feast. They are offering a feast to the dog, and they are requesting to the dog. And till that day, this dog had received nothing but cuffs and kicks. With the cuffs means to beat the dog with the stick, and kick from his host. Host means here the couple who are treating the dog as guest. and it had made up his mind not to eat any of the dainties. So the old people began to get cross. Till that time they were dealing very gently, politely with the dog, but now they made up the mind, no, this is not going to work. So then they started getting rude to the dog, and they put a rope and around the dog's neck and drag it to the garden, but it was all in vain. And he let them lead him where they might, but the dog didn't utter anything. There is no bow wow. I know, like earlier for that old couple, it sniffed some place and started barking and wagging his tail. Nothing happened, but it stopped at a certain spot and began to sniff. And when it sniffed, and so this couple thought this is the lucky place for them. The dog is sniffing, so they started digging around, but they didn't find treasure, but they got quantity of dirt and nasty offal, and they are not able to bear. They have to hold their noses. They had to hold their noses, and they become furious, very angry, being disappointed. Now what they did, they caught the dog and killed him. Okay, now what happened next? In the next video.